Hey everybody, it is the Honey Badger, and today we're going to be working on the front brakes on my daily driver on the C30. I've actually never replaced these brakes before. They are the original ones that were on the vehicle when I bought it. I'm going to guess they've been replaced maybe once at least, because right now with just the miles I've put on this vehicle, they've got at least 60,000 on it. So we're going to go ahead and work on those today. Should be hopefully a pretty easy job. The first thing we're going to do is get this jacked up and get those front wheels off as well. And then we can dig into it, see what all it takes. If you leave a like on this video, I would much appreciate it. And make sure you are subscribed for future content. And also check out my merch down below in the description too. I've got some new designs that have just hit the storefront. You should check them out. All right, now that we have the front wheel off of the vehicle, we can start to get into the work. But another thing you want to do, obviously, when you are doing a little bit of work is check some of the other components nearby, which I happen to notice, if we can get this into the camera, if it focuses, there we go. It looks like the bottom of the boot on the shock is missing or loose, because you can see the actual shock itself. So that should be more secure than that. So we're gonna look into that at some point soon. And then we also notice a bunch of gunk and grime all over it. And it would appear, if we look back here, I got a CV boot that has ripped, which is pretty common on this vehicle. So that's something that we're also gonna address coming up here soon. And it's kind of left a bit of a mess of gunk and sludge all over the control arm and other components. So we definitely have a couple things that need addressed and fixed if we want things to kind of last in the long run, but for now we're just going to work on these front brakes since we have the parts for that. We can at least get that in a much better position. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is release a little bit of pressure from the brake reservoir by just unscrewing the cap on it, which is pretty simple. Can help with a little bit of pressure if there's pressure in your lines. If you need to sneak some of these new parts in here, they can be a little bit thicker than they were before. So one trick you can do to get the piston to actually compress in here is you can pull on the back side of the brake and it'll pivot in it, and it will actually, I've already done it once, but you can see how much room or how much more wiggle room there is in here now for this to come apart. So that'll actually, and you can actually hear the brake fluid when I pull on that. So actually it's got a bunch more. So this is compressed a little bit. It's gonna make it a lot easier to get everything in here. The first thing we wanna do is take these caps off the back to get to the back of it. So one on the top, one on the bottom, pretty easy. And actually the kit I bought actually comes with replacement caps in case yours are missing or broken. So I'll leave links down below in the description to all the parts that I am using, and we'll go over those too in just a moment as well. So we're gonna loosen these up so we can get the actual brake caliper off, and then we're just gonna hang it up out of the way. We don't wanna make any more, we don't want it to pull down on the actual brake lines. You're gonna have problems if you do that. So after we get that off, with those two caps we just took off, we'll get to the 7mm Allen that should just be right in here. Yep, that's what size it is. We're gonna get those loose and we'll pull those off. We'll remove this, and then we'll take the actual, I can't remember what this is called, but this bracket that actually is holding the disc in its place. We'll be able to easily get the pads off as well and everything. Replace the rotor and replace the pads, and we'll put it all back together. So as I mentioned, this is a 7mm Allen key, or Allen, whatever you want to call it. And that's just going to fit into the back of this. And then we're going to just break this loose. And these should be torqued to like, I think these ones are like not that much, but this is a little lever, so there we go. It's no longer connected up top. We'll now get the bottom one out, and those you don't even have to pull out all the way. You can leave in there for the time being. We'll check them for corrosion in a second, or if we need to get a wire brush on them, get any maybe surface rust off them, see if there's anything we need to clean up. Take the retention off of the brake. The caliper itself should then just slide free. Maybe a little jiggle. And there we go. Caliper is free. We'll take the rear pad out. and pull that out and away. Not a lot of life on that. I knew that these had been gotten their full wear. Yeah, that's it's probably a little bit lower than you want to go, but there still is face left on the pad. It's not to the metal, but yeah, I pushed it probably a little bit longer than you wanted to. You want to get this hung up out of the way now. You don't want any excess force on it. Oh, is this one a little big? No, it works. So we're just gonna bungee it up and over the actual spring up here. So the next thing we need to remove are the 2 bolts here that are actually holding the bracket into place that holds the caliper and the disc from escaping currently. This is a 15mm socket or wrench. These are actually, at least on my vehicle, were very tight, like very tight. They should be torqued roughly to like 88 foot-pounds. They might have been a little bit more from whoever did the brakes last time, but they're very tight. I threw a little PV blaster on them to kind of help break that bond and loosen them a little bit. So now I can get in here, and they're still a little tight, but we'll be able to crank these off now. Looks like there was a little bit of thread locker on them too, which is good. They're supposed to have a little bit. So these are pretty clean too, which is nice. Maybe clean up the back of them just a tiny bit, but overall, both look like they're in pretty good shape. Now that we have the front brakes actually off the vehicle, we can take a look at what we were working with and what we will be working with, and kind of a comparison to see how everything kind of looks. So let's start things off with the brake pads. So these are the brake pads that came off of the vehicle. As you can see, not a lot of life left on those. So pretty worn out. Our replacement pads, here, we'll just grab one of the same side and compare. Quite a bit more meat on the replacement pads. So yeah, definitely very, very worn out. So good to get those replaced. You know, same thing probably on the front. Yeah, same thing. A lot of meat on this one. Man, that's pretty thin. That's all it is to the metal is, gosh, not a lot. So I don't know how much I'd call it, 1/10 of an inch, if that. So good to get those replaced. These brake pads that I actually bought do come with a few replacement pieces that maybe other brakes don't come with. So I guess that's nice for these pads. I got these pads from Elevate, so it's one of their pads. I did some research. Theirs seem pretty good. A lot of people said they liked them a lot too. Now we obviously have this bracket that we're going to clean up some of the surface rust on. We'll just give that a quick little rub with a wire brush. And then as for our actual brake disc, the disc itself, it isn't in atrocious condition. It hasn't thinned out all the way down. It is actually very corroded though on the back, well, as little chunks of metal come off of it. And within the actual vents too, it's really rusted away. So we have some replacements over here. We'll pull one out real quick. So here's our replacement, still in its bag. We'll get our brake parts cleaner on it too to get off any of the oil, because you obviously don't want that on it. With the pads, those won't react well together. This one though, clearly looks a lot nicer, is going to get the job done. We're just going for just a vented rotor. We're not doing slotted or drilled. I'm not a big fan of drilled rotors. I've seen actually plenty of those crack on plenty of my friends' cars. I've done slotted before, but not a huge fan. We get more surface area this way anyways, and these are for a daily driver, so we're not too worried, but this is gonna look a lot nicer, obviously, and having no corrosion in the vents too. So we'll get these in its place, and we'll put all of this back together, and we should have some pretty nice brakes at this point, especially compared to the very lack of brakes we have left. there we have it. We are all finished up. This is actually the passenger side, but as you can see, the new discs are in with the new pads. Everything looks a lot shinier and new, and we are all done, at least with the install. Now what we need to do is go out and actually break them in, give them a heat cycle. When you would come back, now this isn't a problem because we just did the fronts, but you wouldn't want to park and have your e-brake on, as you could warp things after their first initial heat cycle. So we're all done. Like I said, in here, we're gonna just go do a quick break-in, but that's all we are doing for now. Like I said earlier, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe for more content. I have some more videos on this coming out. The 720 will be back soon, as well as it's almost done in the paint booth. We'll throw everything back together and get to work on other projects on that vehicle. And I'll see all of you guys in the next one.